So, as we said last week, Peter and I are writing with the hopes to produce a full-on miniseries to be distributed somewhere. Hopefully that you can see it. And we're way in the early stages of development still. And so this week I wanted to talk a little bit about story development, because that's after kind of concurrently with characters is really step number 2. But characters, I find, the stories I like are character driven. So I started with characters and now we're working on story. And so I did a lot of research on story structure and formula and all that, and a lot of that research involved watching TV. And it's interesting because there is like the hero's journey is the big deal, and there are like a couple big screenwriting books. There's a lot more tips out there for movies than there is for TV, and why did we decide to do TV versus a movie?
Well, I think probably a lot of reasons, really.
Yeah.
You have that it's easier to set up small groups rather than one long group.
Yeah.
We also have, I think, more story than an hour and
Yeah, I think we wanted
minutes.
to see like more change over time than a movie's one arc would.
Because we're not
be.
really sure if we're going to do more seasons than one.
Yeah.
But we do feel we have more than just the basic arc beats of.
And I think as far as like world building, and our world is China, but world building this expat community, you can get more immersed in the side characters, in the situations, in the places in a TV series than a movie.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, when you can focus. I mean, a lot of what interests me are the small stories.
Yeah.
And one large small story means you basically have like one small movie.
Yeah.
You're not going to make a blockbuster. That's the only thing
Right,
anyone really cares about. But which is not a bad thing. A small movie those are my favorite movies.
Yeah.
But with the sheer amount of content of 8 years plus whatever happens between now and finishing, that we just have so many itty bitty tiny little stories that it was more interesting for me, anyways, to put them into these little tiny boxes and explore. Again, like we talked about before, we're watching Seinfeld. So those little stories of like when you're writing a story and you're like, I've got all these things that are going into this half hour, and I'm like, that's 2 or 3 episodes. I want to see them just in that restaurant, a la Chinese restaurant in Seinfeld. Because there's enough little stories living there.
Yeah, so a lot of the advice out there is for movie screenwriters, but Dan Harmon, who created Community and Rick and Morty, I guess is now his famous thing.
Yeah.
Has a lot of good stuff online. He has an essay series on story structure for TV specifically, and he still uses he calls it the story circle, and it's based on the hero's journey of like call to action, resistance, trials, meeting with the goddess, whatever step 6 is called, I forget, but it's more trials essentially. And then crossing the threshold back into normal life, blah blah blah. And with the caveat that in a movie, your starting and end point are going to be vastly different, and within a TV show, sitcom especially, your end point is kind of going to wrap you back around to the start, because in sitcoms, the guiding factor is that not much has changed.